The pups were just finishing their lunch dishes when I got a call from Montelier the moose. He said we'd better get down to the library fast. I asked what the emergency was, but Montelier just said I'd know as soon as I turned the corner. I flashed my light, and the pups came running. As I drove towards the library, the pups peered ahead to see what the trouble was. I turned the corner, and I got a big surprise, the oh-so-stinky smell of skunk. I came to a stop in front of the library, but there was no one there, and suddenly half of Pawtickle ran over to me. They all talked at once, while they held their noses, which sounded kind of funny. I had to toot my horn to get their attention. When Montelier reminded us of how very curious Bilko could be, we suddenly figured out what had happened. Bilko had been sprayed by Scintilla the skunk. Tanker spotted poor Bilko standing all alone behind a tree. He looked absolutely miserable. Montelier went on to say that Bilko hadn't meant any harm. Even Scintilla the skunk, now perched with her babies on Montelier's back, knew Bilko hadn't meant any harm. But when she turned around and saw Bilko's nose right next to her children, she just panicked and sprayed him, as skunks sometimes do. She was sorry, but as she explained, the safety of her children came first. While Farah and Smudge went and got Bilko, Tanker and Dilly ran over to the grocery store. As Bilko approached, the rest of the citizens of Pawtickle backed away. Soon, Tanker and Dilly returned with every can of tomato juice that they could find. It sounds strange, but tomato juice takes the stinky smell of skunk away. It didn't take long to scrub poor Bilko down with tomato juice. The final rinse with my hose washed the smell completely away and brought back Bilko's famous smile. Of course, he was a little pink from all that tomato juice. He apologized to Scintilla and said the next time he wanted to know what kind of cookies the baby skunks were eating, he'd just ask. It never paid to stick your nose into somebody else's business, especially if the someone else was a skunk. On our way back to the fire station, Farah had an idea. She thought it would be fun to finger paint when they got home. Dilly, Tanker, and Smudge thought it was a great idea. In seconds, the pups were elbow deep in paint. Farah couldn't resist telling Tanker he had too much water in his paint. She dabbed a bit of paint on hers, but soon she suggested Dilly's painting would be nicer if she added some blue to the sky, but not too dark. And when Smudge started making wavy lines in his ocean, running all the colors together, Farah pointed out it would be better if he didn't. Now Tanker thanked Farah and added more red. He ended up with a lovely picture of me. I smiled when I saw the finished picture. It did look a lot like me. And Dilly thought Farah's idea for her sky was a good one, and she made it a nice pale blue. But Smudge didn't pay any attention to Farah and kept on making heavy, wavy lines in his ocean. Farah's painting was only just started. She hardly had any picture there at all. But she leaned over Smudge's picture. If he painted his boat red and yellow, it would stand out nicely on the blue ocean. Smudge said he had other ideas for his boat and globbed green on it. Next, he swirled yellow on top of his blue sky for the sun, and it came out kind of green instead. Smudge didn't mind, but Farah was starting to get upset. When Smudge daubed purple and green and red on his ocean to be the fish, Farah couldn't believe her eyes. Smudge was ruining his painting. Smudge dragged his fingers through all the different colors because he just wanted to see how it would look. Farah said, and not very nicely, that he had ruined his picture for sure. But Smudge just stared at his painting. He was thinking. He smiled and he picked up the pot of yellow paint and added some right in the middle. Farah couldn't believe it. I happened to be looking in the window right at that moment, and I asked Farah to come out and talk to me for a minute. She did, and she certainly did. She talked and talked and talked about how Smudge had added all the wrong colors in all the wrong places and how he'd made a mess, not a painting. Well, when Farah got all wound up, you sort of had to let her unwind too, so I let her talk till she sighed and was finally finished. I asked her how her own painting was coming along. She realized she actually hadn't done much on it. I asked her if she was having fun. Well, not really. Smudge was mixing all his colors, she pointed out. I asked if Smudge was having fun. Farah had to think for a minute. Then she said she thought he was. I explained to Farah that the whole point of finger painting is to have fun. Back inside, Farah started painting her picture again. She was careful to make it beautiful. Smudge was happily swishing all of his colors together. Smudge smiled and said that he'd learned something really cool. If you mix all the colors together, you get black. He hadn't known that before. Farah admitted she didn't know that either. She took a good look at Smudge's painting. She smiled and admitted that black finger painting does stand out. It was very artistic. All the finger paintings went up on the fridge. They were so good. The pups were proud. Farah learned a great lesson. She discovered that sometimes you learn terrific things when you do things differently.
Here's some things that are fun to do. Fun for the friends who play with you. Fun for a bunch or just for two. Fun for me and fun for you. Like playing race cars. All you need is some toy cars, a nice smooth ramp, and someone to play with. Let two cars go at the same time, and the first one to the bottom is the fastest. Of course, you need a ramp that can't walk away.